So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you my top 5 tips before you go out and buy a buy-to-let. What's going on everyone? My name is Aaron, aka The Anxious Investor. And as you probably know by now, I make these videos to not only help you save money, learn for free, and also make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that I make. So before we begin, I would greatly appreciate it if you could absolutely smash the hell out of that like button. And if you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing too. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk about the top 5 tips that I have. The first one is tenant profile. Now, often as investors or people looking to buy properties, we are fixated on the numbers. Where can we get the best price? Where is the cheapest house? What gives us the most rent? And although these are fair enough questions, we are often missing one of the most important things, at least in my opinion, the tenant profile. You see, as much as I advise people to start with the end in mind, I always feel that they always fell short and stopped at the purchase price or end value, rather than actually going a further few months down the line and thinking about what type of tenants are going to be living here. You see, your levels of stress and your experience as a landlord and how well you're going to do in this game, especially if you're going to hold on to properties, will be linked very closely to your choice of tenants. Now, tenants are awesome, I must say that. I say that because 1, I am a tenant, and 2, I have some great tenants too. It's a lot of 2s. But if you're not looking at the areas and the people within that area who are going to rent from you, then you could have yourself a very bad investment. So, what should you look for? I can hear you thinking right now. You want to be speaking to letting agents and asking them simple questions like, what are the types of tenants around here? What types of properties rent the best? What roads should I look at? What roads should I not look at? You see, they will have the best local knowledge of that particular area. Alongside this, you also want to see the kind of schools that are in that area, the jobs, and any sort of regeneration going on to assess the types of people that you think would live in that area or rent a house. And by doing as much research as possible, i.e. your own due diligence into this, you will get instantly a clearer picture of whether this is the right place for you to either buy and rent out a property, or maybe you should move on somewhere else. The second one is a limited or personal name. So very often people ask, should I buy in a limited company or in my personal name? Now, I'd advise you speak to an accountant or a tax advisor on this, because there are pros and cons of both owning a home in your personal name and also in a limited company. But everyone's situation is different, so it'd be very difficult for me to give you an answer. It'd be far too generic. But buying in the right place along with the right house, of course, I promise you will absolutely save you thousands in the future. Now, some quick points off the top of my head. A limited company deals with corporation tax. A personal name, you're going to be taxed on your income. Also, a limited company would actually be set up as a SPV, a special purpose vehicle, and you'll be assessed as an individual. So don't worry about having a limited company that is trading or showing profits. It's just you as an individual. So make sure your own personal situation is good. Number 3, we're looking at ROI. Now, a lot of people focus on yield, and I understand that. I kind of get that because it's common, and I suppose it's a decent metric to at least roughly analyze deals. However, I prefer return on investment, ROI. And why, you're asking? Well, because it easily tells me how hard my money is working for me and how soon I can get it back out and go again. For example, a 50% ROI on a deal would look something like this. I'm just going to make these figures up, by the way. Let's say we are using £10,000 and we're going to put this into an investment deal. And we know that every year the net profit is £5,000. That for me is a 50% ROI. I get 50% of my money out each year. So in 2 years, I will have my £10,000 back and I'll be ready to go again. Sounds like a good deal, right? But I know a lot of buy-to-lets, especially unless you're using the BRR model, which is something I've spoken about on this video here, which you may want to check out, they're a lot longer. You're not going to get a 50% buy-to-let ROI. Or if you are, nobody's going to tell you about it because they'll be snatching them all up. So yes, it's going to be longer for a buy-to-let. But trust me, that's okay, providing that you're happy with the return on investment it gives you. So make sure you get familiar with it. Number 4, management versus being a landlord. Now, I have some properties I self-manage, but I also have some properties that I don't. And in an ideal world, I'll be completely honest, I want them all self-managed. However, this is something that maybe you need to have a long, hard think about, especially before you go out there and buy a buy-to-let. Are you happy giving away some profit a month to save yourself maybe the headaches or anxiety around having to deal with every call, text, or message from tenants when something goes wrong? Think about that. For some people, they don't care, and I get that because being a landlord is pretty easy for them. For me, well, I don't like that uncertainty, so I've recently chosen to have all my properties moving forward completely outsourced and managed. Now, a tip for this is to make sure that they're credible. We've used a dodgy letting agent back in the day who was creaming off the top, And I literally had to stroll in there and demand my money back when I found out about it. So you want to make sure that they're a credible letting agent. Ideally try and get references or use someone that people have used before, because on the whole, they will save you a lot of stress. And remember, the good ones will do a good job because they don't want the stress either. And also a really important point, remember that you are still legally obligated to carry out all of your landlord duties. So please make sure you do that. Just by handing it over doesn't negate you from that. And finally, number 5, be a good landlord. Now I know landlords get a bad rep, especially on the TV or in the press, but that's a small percentage, I promise you. There are ways that you can make your life easier, make more money in the long term, and make the tenant's life easier too, which I'm gonna explain right now. Firstly, remember that if you have a void or a tenant not paying, it instantly kills your yield or investment potential. So don't be greedy off the back. When you're listing your property, don't be like those greedy landlords that we hear about, trying to get higher rents, because it'll simply mean that your property will just sit on the market for longer. Whereas if you drop the price to a realistic one, you'd probably get somebody in there straight away and start earning some income. So don't be greedy. Next up, make sure that you're fair and realistic and don't exploit people. Kind of linked to the last post, but the last thing I want you to do is to try and follow the following steps. So I'm going to give you some tips on how you can actually become a better landlord. And these are very simple, so choose whichever ones that you want. The first is keep the house tidy. The tidier you keep it, the better they will look after it too. Sounds simple, but it's true. Next up, send them Christmas cards and chocolates. You haven't got to become best friends with them, but nice gestures like this show that you're human too, and not like the landlords we see on the TV. Third one, ensure you have a handyman ready to deal with any repairs or maintenance. Think about it, if your parents lived in that home, would you not want it fixed as soon as possible? The fourth one, account for 10% of voids and maintenance every month, because something will go wrong, I promise you. And finally, number 5, take out the right insurance to not only save yourself, but also look after your tenants too. Insurance is key. The right one, of course. So there we have it, guys. That's the end of this video. So other than smashing the like button, if you found any of it useful, and subscribing if you're new to the channel, the only thing left for you to do now is to sit back, laugh a little bit, and watch the bloopers. And for me to say a massive thank you for sticking around to the end of this video, when you could have been doing anything else. Thanks for watching. So what I want you to do is try and follow the... Awkward. But if you're also looking at, but if you're not